All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first edition of a new podcast that me and my co-host Carlos Campbell are starting here on this January 1st, 2022 episode of the Art Culture podcast, where we discuss, analyze, and examine how life imitates art. I am Austin Perry. And ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk about artwork here on this podcast. This is a new podcast that we're starting off. Like I said, my co-host here, Carlos Campbell, is with me. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Carlos.
What's up? I'm Carlos Campbell. We have a few other podcasts together, so this is going to be another podcast that's part of the Troll Free Zone or whatever. It's a network where we could discuss different topics and stuff without clickbaiting or trolling people, whatever. This is a troll free zone. So I'm excited to start a new podcast. We got other ones that's coming up, so let's see how this one goes, because art is universal. So I'm really excited for this one.
And just like Happy Madison Productions, which is Adam Sandler's video production network, Troll Free Zone is me and Carlos's media video production network. That it's a brand that we're building. This is just yet another podcast that we're adding to the lineup of different types of podcasting content that we're bringing to you guys for your viewing pleasure, basically. And so this is, like I said, the Art Culture podcast. We also have the Austin Perry Show, which is my personal show, the Austin Perry Show. And then Carlos does the American Women podcast, which I'm a co-host of. And then go ahead and tell them about your other podcasts that you have lined up that we're going to be bringing in the future, Carlos.
I got one called only got one episode out, but it's season 2. It's Behind the Makeup. And that's basically where I interview women individually and then just ask them a few questions, pick their brains, and then with their answers or whatever, they will manifest whoever they want to talk to or whatever. And what else? Let's see. I got
sports podcast.
Oh yeah, sports. Offensive awareness.
Offensive awareness. That's another one. Carlos is in the works.
I got it.
Producing that in the future. That's another one, right?
Music detective. It's going to be music, of course. Alien consultation, casual gamer chat for all the gamers, offensive awareness, sports, vulture meals, cooking, gym hopping. We got to get the workout podcast started. The movie podcast,
yes,
flicks. I found out a name for it, Conflicted Flicks. And then the comic book one, I don't still looking for a name for it, but that's already 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11.
So as you can tell, ladies and gentlemen, we are very ambitious with the Troll Free Zone Media Network. This is the Art Culture podcast. This is actually going to be kind of like a flagship program, because as well as being video producers and content creators and podcasters, me and Carlos are also artists. We both do illustrations and paintings and two-dimensional artworks. So we're going to go ahead and start it off here on the Art Culture podcast, discussing and analyzing and examining how life imitates art. So let's go ahead and break it down with the first topic that we're going to discuss here today. And we're going to start by talking about our backgrounds as artists. So a brief background of how I became an artist. So my name's Austin Perry. I am 32 years old. I'm originally from here in the Tampa Bay area of Florida, United States. And I started drawing at a young age. I loved to draw when I was a kid. I drew all kinds of different like pop culture characters like Dragon Ball Z, X-Men. I love to draw Wolverine. I did like a few different Wolverine drawings when I was probably like 9 or 10. And then I did some more drawings when I was in high school. Then I kind of stopped drawing, and then I picked it back up when I was probably like 25, because I did get like several tattoos. I've got a bunch of tattoos, and that's what kind of got me back into artwork, because I was like at the tattoo shop getting a tattoo, and I was looking around at like all the cool artwork on the walls. And then I saw he had painted a skateboard deck, and it was like this hot chick in a bikini with an El Luchador mask on with like a machine gun like pointed up. And I was like, that is so fucking dope. And I want to do an artwork similar to that. So like after I got my tattoo and I left the tattoo shop, I like did my own drawing of like something kind of similar to that, of this chick that was like hot holding guns up. And that was probably like when I was like in 2015. And so that was like my first drawing I had done like since high school, since I was like probably like 17 years old. So I literally took like a 7-year hiatus from like drawing anything. And that was the first thing that got me back into it. I was at the tattoo shop. I saw that dope ass like painted skateboard deck, and I was like, I want to do another drawing. And so I did the drawing of the chick holding the guns up. That was like supposed to be like a hot chick. And that's what just set it off, because I had always been like an entrepreneurial minded type of person. And I was like trying to like find my calling in life. I went to college, I graduated with my degree. I had just been working like a regular job, but I was always thinking like, what can I do? Like, should I be a personal trainer? Should I try and start my own business? And I didn't really know like what my calling was or like what my niche was. And I was a very creative type of person. I've always been more of like a right brain person than a left brain type person. And then when I did that drawing, when I was like 25 years old, I was like, this is it. This is my key. This is my ticket. This is my ticket for freedom. This is a way I can be self-sufficient. I can be independent. I can really like make a name for myself, actually be respected and have a respectable lifestyle and livelihood where I can make money and actually like build an empire and do something that I love and that I'm passionate about. And so like I knew instantly like, okay, this is what I'm going to pursue. And so basically ever since then, I've really been like trying to pursue artwork. And I'm a pretty successful artist now in my own right. I have sold multiple paintings and drawings. I've showcased at different art shows and pop culture conventions. I have a decent Instagram following. I'm up to almost 3,000 followers on Instagram now, and it just keeps growing. And so I have my own website. My website's austinperry.org. And basically, it's one of those things where you just get in, you get out of it what you put into it. So I'm trying to just work as hard as I possibly can at producing paintings and illustrations. I need to work harder than I even am. I need to go into like double time, overtime. But basically, this podcast, the Art Culture Podcast, this podcast that we're starting right now, is a good way for us to like me and Carlos to like discuss about our artwork. And so I'm really excited to be on this podcast here with Carlos talking about artwork. I personally, so I started drawing again, like I drew when I was a kid, but I started again when I was like 25, like I said. And I mostly do like smaller sized paintings and illustrations with like colored pencils, pens, ink, acrylic paints. So kind of like mixed media, mostly sized like 8x10 or like 8.5x11 or like 11x17. I have done a few that have been a little larger than that, but I eventually want to start doing like larger canvases, like 2x3s and 3x4 foots, because those are actually like the most popular size for people to be hanging on their walls. Like if someone's like a rich person and they go and they buy a new mansion and they want to decorate their house, like they're buying 3x4s, because anything larger than that, it takes like 2 people to transport it, and it's hard to get in a van. So like 3x4 is really the ideal size that like a lot of artists are selling. And so the 3x4s is like really that sweet spot. And I like to do a lot of like pop culture type of paintings where I'll do like Batman, Sonic. I like to do Star Wars characters. I like to do like Mario. I've done a few different Marios. And then I do original characters as well. Like I do portraits of like women's faces and stuff like that. And so basically, I really am trying to just grow as an artist, and I'm still in my growing phase. I haven't really hit my stride yet. I'm still, I would say, not even intermediate artist. I'm still a beginner artist, I consider myself. I'm really trying to get to that expert advanced level. I'd say that's when you hit like 100 grand followers on Instagram and you're just posting like on the daily, like new artworks, or at least like every 2 or 3 days, you're posting like some new dope ass artwork that you just created. Like that's really when you're going to hit like expert level. So yeah, definitely check out my website, austinparry.org, AUSTINPARRY.org. Check out my Instagram, Austin Parry Art, AUSTINPARRY, art, ART. So, and then basically I want to pass it back to Carlos now to talk about his beginnings of becoming an artist, of an illustrator, and tell us about yourself, Carlos, and how you became an artist.
Yeah, mine's pretty easy. I could try to keep it less than 5 minutes. I've been drawing since probably like preschool. I just had a natural talent for it and a love for it. I used to draw all through grade school. Used to draw a lot of Disney characters, especially Mickey Mouse, and through like the teenage years. Who else I used to draw? I forget what other Bugs Bunny. That was fun to draw because at first it looks complicated, but once you start with the simple designs or whatever, then you could like draw it good. I was very good at imitating artists where I could just copy the picture and it looks very good. But it was natural for me. But when people see it, they'll be like, "Oh my goodness!" They're like, "How can you do that?" or whatever. I'm like, "It's easy for me. It's just a natural talent." So throughout grade school, I just drew like cartoony stuff. I was never really good at drawing realistic stuff, and I always wanted to draw that. I was drawing only anime drawings I was drawing was like Dragon Ball Z when Trunks first came out, Future Trunks. That was crazy. Like everybody was drawing that picture. And then I went to, after high school, I went to the Art Institute of Atlanta and I did media arts and animation for just 2 years. But that's when I was telling you about it. I took a life drawing class where you draw nude models, and I developed a talent of drawing realistic. And then we drew our own like little cartoon characters and stuff. And then we had one where we had to draw like a mythical beast. It had to be a griffin. So that was cool. That was the first time I drew a realistic like beast or animal. And then I start learning about anatomy. So when drawing animals, especially horses, you have to know the anatomy. So practice makes perfect. But after college, I used to do caricatures. So that was pretty fun because with caricatures, there's no rules. So since I learned how to draw realistic, if someone doesn't want to draw, if they don't want to look too cartoony or too like anime, like if they got a big nose, if they don't want to be all cartoony and they're insecure about themselves, I could still make it more realistic than cartoony, and it'll still keep the elements of that person. And I did that for about a year, no, probably like a few months. Then I ended up moving to North Carolina, and then I just quit drawing. I've just been hustling, trying to just get my own place or whatever, get some independence. Then I moved to Atlanta, wasn't drawing then, and then moved to, this is probably like 2012, then moved to Florida. And then I think I got back into drawing because I was really good at graphic art from what I learned in Art Institute. So I think around like 2015, 2016, that's when I started my own clothing line. But I never really got to draw my sketch art. I just used graphic design to develop my logo and stuff like Illustrator and Photoshop. So I'm really good in Photoshop and Illustrator. So now I haven't been drawing for a minute. I stopped making t-shirt designs probably like 3 years ago because I wasn't selling really good, and it was like universal. It's mostly men's clothing. So now that I learned more about clothing and stuff, like 80% of the consumers are women. So now I could revamp my t-shirt website and have women's clothing. And then, so that's where I'm at right now. So I haven't been, I sketched like a few stuff, but haven't really got back into art. But Austin gonna inspire me to get back because I got a lot of ideas, just like you with the like different pop art and stuff. I got so many ideas to draw and mix in with different characters like Marvel or DC characters, or even cartoons, or even was it Power Rangers and stuff. So I got all the ideas in my head. I just need to get to the pen and pad. So that's about it. I'm getting ready right now. So that's where I'm currently at.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's just a brief little background, ladies and gentlemen, of me and Carlos's past, of how we became artists and how we became interested in artwork. And so, what are some of your favorite genres of artwork and why, Carlos?
I like water painting, and I only drew like water painting probably like in elementary school, and I was trash at it. But I like it has a different feeling when you see water paint. It has this, like, I can't even describe it, especially when they, what's that book called, a thousand,
Watercolor?
yeah, those, I mean, yeah, watercolor painting, watercolor. What's that? I like when they do like what's that book called? Thousand Scary Stories or 100 Scary Stories, where they have the like zombie pictures, or even Marilyn Manson where he does watercolor painting. It like has this like different textures, this different feeling about it. It's something where you could like, especially with drawing zombies and stuff, it's just that watercolor painting, it brings so much life and depth to it. So it's like a grotesque. It has like this creepy vibe to it. I like that. And I also like Art Nouveau, and that's something I'm really researching in. So that's going to be one of the first first of the few artworks that I try to imitate to create my own style. So watercolor painting and Art Nouveau, that's like the top two right now.
Okay, I like watercolors a lot too. I would say some of my favorite genres of artwork is tattoo art. I'm actually like I was describing about how I kind of got into artwork. I'm very heavily influenced by tattoo artwork because it does have kind of like a very distinct type of style. And there's just within tattoo art, there's so many subcategories of just tattoo art, but tattoo art is kind of like a broad, generalized type of artwork that influences a lot of like painters and illustrators. It's kind of like a darker type of art, usually has like a darker theme. And then it kind of has like a wacky theme to it. And then it, because the skin is like a type of medium where it influences like how the line work can be done and stuff. And so it tends to be like bold lines, bright colors. Um, and then like just within tattoo art, there's like black and white, there's like neo trad, there's traditional, there's all different types. And so I also like fan art a lot. I would say that's one of my specialties is fan art. I like doing a lot of different characters from movies and popular TV shows, um, like Pokemon, Batman, Mega Man, Johnny Bravo, Jessica Rabbit, like all these different types of characters, like are like certain ones that I specialize in. And then I would say realism. I like realism a lot. Like there's some like really super dope realism artists out there that can just make some super like hyper realism is even a more refined category than just realism. Surrealism is another type of genre of artwork that I really like a lot. Cartoon art, that's another category that I really like because basically I like realism a lot because if you can master realism, then you can really master any type of artwork because I think I don't think I know that realism is the most detail oriented type of artwork. So if you can literally like recreate like a hyper realistic photo type of artwork of a drawing that you do, then you can really master any other type of artwork because any other type of artwork is going to have less detail in it because it's really anyone can do it. You just have to put your mind to it and will yourself to take the time to be hyper focused in on like making the details and like willing your hand to like draw perfectly like how you want it. And like if you have a strong enough mind, you can do it. Anyone can do it. You just have to will yourself like and be like mentally strong. It's all mental. Your brain controls your muscles. Your brain controls your hand. And then other types of artwork, pop art. As you can see, my background I have is Andy Warhol, and he's considered the godfather of pop art. Alec Monopoly is another famous pop artist who I really like, a local artist around here who I really like, Jason Skeldon. He's a famous pop artist. Mike Mozart, who was the ghost artist for Alec Monopoly for a long time, then they had a falling out. He's basically like my favorite artist. We're going to talk about him later. Timmy Sneaks is another really famous pop artist who I follow, who I like a lot. Pop art is basically like popular art, like as the name implies, like what's popular, like what the pop culture is basically. And then as you can see, like from the Campbells, like Andy Warhol artwork behind me, like pop art was originally influenced by consumerism. So it was like a consumerism society where people were just buying goods, like it was like supply and demand. And there was like grocery stores full of like supermarkets full of like all these shelves of different types of like a whole row of bread where there was like 50 different brands of bread. So the consumerism like dictated that there was going to be all these different types of bread because people were so wealthy like in America that we could afford to have so many different types of bread. So the artwork copied that, and it was basically like mocking like how we lived such luxurious lavish lifestyles. And so that's what original pop art was basically like started off of, was consumerism. And so other types of artwork that I like, different types of genres, would be like street art, which would be like graffiti artwork and stuff like that. I do like graffiti artwork a lot. I'm not super big on like, you know, spray painting some businesses front door and windows illegally. Like I would much rather prefer someone do some graffiti artwork where someone is donating their wall to be graffitied, or whereas, you know, it's somewhere that's like an abandoned building or something like that, where it's not, you know, you're not just vandalizing someone's property. Like I don't really promote that. But I do like graffiti, and that's how I got its start. So, I mean, I understand the roots of it, like in New York City and Chicago, where people were just bombing subway cars and stuff like that. And so that's how it was kind of like, you know, the hard artists that were like, you know, doing the nitty gritty artwork that was really showed like the grunge styles of like those original artists back in like the 70s and 80s, like back in the day when it was like such a subculture. Now it's kind of like coming to the mainstream. But yeah, those are basically like my favorite types of art: pop art, uh fan art, contemporary art. So a lot of people don't know this, but contemporary artwork is actually modern artwork where people have been influenced by technology. So contemporary art means like people that have been interacting with modern technology, and that's influenced their style of artwork. That's what contemporary art is. So like artwork from the 40s, when people were experiencing like World War II, the military industrial complexes, all their like machines of war were like in like radios and radar and airplanes, and like so that was like influencing everyone's artwork. That was like contemporary artwork of the 1940s. And so basically that's another genre of artwork that I like a lot, contemporary artwork. So yeah, graffiti art, street art, modern art, graffiti art, contemporary artwork, pop art, fan art, surrealism, realism, hyperrealism, animal art. I really like animal art a lot. That's one of my favorite genres. Anime art, I forgot to mention that. That's a big one. I really love anime art. I love doing Pokemon characters. Um, I'm just like a super Pokemon fan. I always have been, just because like when I was little, like I watched the Pokemon TV show when I was like whatever, like 8 or 9, 10 years old. And then the cards came out in like, what was it, 1998, 1999. That's when I was 9, 10 years old. And so I've been a fan of me now, 32 years old, a grown ass man, I collect Pokemon cards. And so like now I got money. I'm not rich or anything, but I mean, you know, I'm pretty good with my money, and I've been working a, you know, day job for a long time. And I got a really substantial collection of Pokemon cards. And to me, it's artwork. Honestly, I don't really play the Pokemon game like some guys like meet up at tournaments and like play like the actual card game with their cards, which is cool. I mean, do, you know, have fun. People meet up and play Dungeons and Dragons. People meet up and play a Magic the Gathering. People meet up and play Warhammer. People meet up and play Settlers of Catan. People meet up and play Monopoly, whatever, have fun. I just don't really play the Pokemon game, but I love to collect them just to have them, because I view it as like an investment of artwork. Like if I collect, like I have a pretty large collection of some of the most rare Pokemon cards in the whole world. If I keep them until I'm old, they're going to be worth a lot of money. And I'll probably just pass them on to like my grandkids or whatever. Like, you know, there's like, it's like if you had, you know, comic books from the 1950s, and then, you know, someone today in the 2020s like gave them to their grandkids and they're all worth like tons of money. Same type of thing, basically. So those are some of my favorite genres of artwork. Let's go ahead and move on to the next category here on the Art Culture Podcast, episode 1, June 1st, 2022, where we discuss, analyze, and examine how life imitates art. Carlos, I have a question for you, for Carlos Campbell. What do you prefer, realism or cartoon art?
I like a mix in between two, but the one I would choose, because I like comic book art, and I would say realistic because it's more of a challenge. So I would go realistic over cartoony art, because cartoony art is it's a good foundation to start with, but once you go to realistic, you have to get the proportions right, like the head right. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it challenges you, like simple stuff like your eye width is one eye between each other, your eye width between your head, the length between your eye and your head is a half of an eye length or whatever. So it's I like a challenge, especially with art. Since I'm good in art, why not have a challenge to see how good you could become? So yeah, I love realistic better, especially when it's women too.
I do love beautiful women art. That's another one of my favorite types of artwork, is like pinup models. I would say, what do I prefer, realism or cartoon art? I like realism art and I respect it. And I think that, like I was talking about, if you can master realism art, you can pretty much master any type of artwork. But I really like lean more towards cartoon art. And then there's like nuances like within cartoon art where there's like, you know, if you just draw the most basic type of character, like I can't even think of like what TV show has like the most simplistic type of cartoon art. Like if you draw like a Jigglypuff or something in Pokemon, like that's like a super easy character compared to like if you look at like, you know, some of the famous cartoon comic book artists, like, which is still considered like cartoony style, but it's more like a middle ground between cartoon and realism. And then there's nuances also, like say you draw a Mario character, like you can draw like the most basic Mario character, or you can draw Mario to look much more detailed and stylized. So it depends, but I do like cartoon art a lot just because I think it's basically kind of where my heart kind of leans towards a little bit. And I think that there's a lot of creativity that goes into it, because that's what it really is. What I'm trying to articulate here is
there's no limits.
With realism, you're just like a human copy machine. With cartoon art, you're really like creating something that's unique to itself. That's not, you can just have so much creativity with it. And, but you can be a copy machine with cartoon art too. Like say you do a Pikachu and then you just copy a Pikachu like exactly the same. So that's, but it's like more fantasy style. That's another genre I completely forgot to mention, fantasy art. I love fantasy art. That's a whole genre of artwork that I love. Character design also is another genre. But cartoon art it's really more whimsical, it's more creative, it's more fun. It's like hyper realism drawing where you're just drawing someone's face, like, and it takes you 25 hours to draw just someone's face on like a 11 by 17, right? Say you do it in pencil, it's a graphite illustration of someone's face, hyper realism, and you're doing like a Scarlett Johansson or some like famous like celebrity or something like that. There's artists that do that, and they do like Dwayne the Rock Johnson, and then they do, whatever, some famous politician and some king of some third world country, and like they're famous for doing portrait art. That's a whole genre to itself. And people are like really famous for doing like pencil drawings that are like hyper realistic. It's really just like kind of like a sterile, boring, not fun, very robotic, mechanical type of artwork, in my opinion. Like cartoon art, it's like so much more like fun and creative, like so much, it's just more like just beyond the realm of like this world. Like it's like an otherworldly type of artwork. Like you're like escaping this world and you're like entering like the next dimension type of artwork, if that makes any sense. So I'm gonna go with cartoon art on that one. All right. Carlos Campbell, next question for you here on the Art Culture Podcast, episode 1, where we discuss, analyze, and examine how life imitates art. Who is your favorite artist?
So yeah, we talked about this earlier before we recorded. My favorite artist is Jim Lee, the one that did the Marvel art. Well, he did X-Men, but I'm pretty sure he did way more than that. But he drew like the original X-Men that you see in like the 90s or whatever. And the reason why I like that, like his artwork the most or whatever, like he has the comic book art element, but it's like the different costumes that he made. I don't even know how he even came up with the different costumes for like Wolverine, and even especially with like Magneto, all the villains and stuff. But it seems like it's more comic-y or whatever. But now that we're in the year 2022, and then like a few movies came out of where like the movies that came out before, like superhero movies, they're like, oh, you're wearing tights. They try to make it like funny that superheroes wear tights. But now that we evolved a little as society, tights are more practical when you're a superhero, because you have to move and you're doing all these different things, especially if you're very flexible and stuff. Like tights are like the perfect outfit, and of course there's armor and stuff. So the way he created these outfits with the tights but still had the tactical practicability on it, and then add the X-Men emblem and stuff is so cool, like the different colors and stuff. Because they always made fun of well, they didn't always make fun, but it was on I remember the first X-Men movie that was making a jab at Wolverine wearing like all black. They was like, what do you want me to wear, an all yellow costume? But now that you thinking, like, shit, Wolverine would be badass with a bright yellow traditional costume, like slicing up people or whatever, because even the like thought process of the like in color theory, the color yellow is real vibrant and is like caution or whatever. So it'd be perfect for Wolverine to wear yellow. And it's just like all the different colors. I'm pretty sure he made different colors. He thought about it when he was making the colors of the costumes and stuff. So yeah, it's just like the practicability of the costume art, and the artwork is amazing too. It's realistic, but I forgot the realistic person. A real person is like 7.5 heads tall, I think with Marvel art, it's probably like 10 heads tall or something like that. But he create these like larger than life characters, and I'm still a fan of it today, just the artwork, just looking at it. And then hopefully I could replicate his artwork until I could figure out my own artwork. So yeah, Jim Lee is a beast. He's my number one right now.
Jim Lee is one of the GOATs, one of the greatest of all time. That's another genre of artwork I completely forgot to mention, comic book art, which is probably actually like one of my favorite like genres of artwork, because that's like his own category, which is can be considered like a type of cartoon art, but really comic book art is like all to its own. It's not really cartoon art, it's like comic book art. Like comic book art is comic book art. Like it's its own, because with the cross hatching and the shading and the black work that's done. And then like a lot of people don't even know this, like probably people who are watching this probably do, but most regular people that aren't really into artwork don't even know. But like a comic book is, there's someone who does the pencil, then there's someone who does the ink work, then there's someone who does, sometimes there's even someone who does like the shading and the cross hatching too, but mostly like the ink work person does all that. Then there's someone who does the dialogue. I mean, there's someone who does the coloring, and then there's someone who does the dialogue bubbles, like the writing of the comics. So that's a 4-person venture. There's a penciler, an inker, a colorist, and then a dialogue person. So it's a collaborative effort. And then there's also like certain artists who are just like prodigies out there who do all of the whole thing. And they come out with like I think like a short comic book is like 22 pages. And then like a long form comic book is more like 40 something pages. And there's like, I know like one of my favorite artists, Sam Henry, his Instagram is the Atomic Studios. I think he's almost at like 200,000 subscribers now on Instagram. But he's like the top selling American manga artist. Oh. So he came out with like a manga where he did everything. He did the pencil, the ink, the coloring, and the dialogue. And he came out with like 12 different books, and they're all like 40 something page books. And it was the #1 bestseller on Amazon, and it was called Hanzo. And off of the Hattori Hanzo, Japanese samurai legend, it was like his spin-off of that character, and he created his own universe of his manga, which is like just a Japanese comic book, called Hanzo. And he killed it. He slayed it. Like his artwork is so just top level, premium level artwork. And he's like straight up a prodigy, where he was just putting in the work though, like straight up all-nighters. Like, and his thing was basically, you got to do at least a page a day, more like 2 pages a day. And that's like pencil, like pencil, like just the pencil, basically. Like, and then, he'd go back and like ink it and color it, and he digitally colors it. And, but he would do the pencil of like the whole sketch with the dialogue, like one whole page, like in one day. But he preferred to do 2. Sometimes he'd do 2 pages in one day. So, I mean, if you did like 12 books, each one's like 40 something, how many pages is that? Let's say it's 10 books, say it's 40 pages. You're looking at 400 pages right there. So that would have taken him 400 days if he did it every single day, no days off. And that's like probably taking him like 8 to 10 hours a day just to do a page or 2. And so basically that's like the type of work ethic. Another one of my favorite artists is the creator of Spawn and one of the co-creators of the Venom character in the Spider-Man franchise, who is dang, I'm blanking on his name right now.
Is that
Todd McFarlane.
Oh yeah,
Todd McFarlane is an OG American artist, probably the OG American artist who created the Spawn franchise, and like I said, co-creator of the Venom character. And he is basically one of the top art comic book moguls within the whole industry. rivaling Stan Lee, basically. Like he's like right after Stan Lee is Todd McFarlane, because he's such an entrepreneur and he's so good at self-marketing, self-promotion, promoting his brand. He made a Spawn movie. There was a Spawn TV show on the HBO. His line of toys and action figures and mini statues that he has is just rivaled by none. He created his own line, his own brand of comics, Image Comics, which is the third most popular brand of comics behind Marvel and DC. So, and I remember watching an interview of Todd McFarlane, and he was saying that basically what he did was he wanted to be an illustrator for Marvel so bad, like back in like the late 80s, that he was a young guy just, and when he first saw comics, he loved it so much. He's like, oh, I love this. I got to do this. And so he just started drawing comics. And so he started drawing Spider-Man. He loved drawing Spider-Man. He would just draw Spider-Man over and over and over and over and over. And he would send in packets. He would mail them to Marvel. He'd do like 20 drawings and he'd take those 20 pages. He'd mail it to Marvel and he'd be like, I want to work for you guys. Here's my work. And then he would get denied, rejected over and over and over. Would not take no for an answer. And then like he just kept getting better. He would just draw constantly. Like he was like obsessed, like literally obsessed. Like he would just keep drawing. And then he would just keep sending the packets into Marvel. And then eventually they're just like, okay, yeah, this kid just keeps sending us packets. Like, go ahead and hire him for like some like side project or whatever. Like, give this kid a job. Like, he's got heart, Jesus, you know? And so that's how he first got his start, literally, because he was obsessed. And then I remember that him telling his story about how he got started in the comic book industry. And then he would talk about how he would draw things, how the editors and like his boss people, like the manager level or like the, you know, executive level people at Marvel Comics, they'd be like, we don't like how you did the webs here. Like, we don't like how you made the eyes so big on Spider-Man's mask. They're like, don't do that. And he'd be like, oh yeah, okay, I'll change it. And then he just wouldn't, because he's like, no, it looks better like this. And then like people were buying his comics way more than any of the other comics. And his art was like so successful because he was just like, well, I'm your number one artist. I'm the number one seller. Everyone's buying my comics. Why are you trying to tell me to change things? Like the editing publishers or whatever were like, no, you got to stick to this type of art, or you got to do it this way. And he was just like, no, I'm going to do it like this. Like, everyone loves it. What are you talking about? Like, I'm making you the most money here. Like, you can't tell me what to do. And then, so basically he was just like, well, what am I doing working for these people? They keep trying to change my artwork. He left, he quit. And he took like 10 of their best artists with him. He like met with all their, and then after like Todd McFarlane left with all like their best artists, like then Marvel like implemented all these strict rules on all their artists and all this other stuff. Oh, yeah. Right. And so Todd McFarlane's one of my favorite. And then another thing he said that is really important that I want to share on this episode 1 podcast, the Art Culture Podcast. He said, talent can only get you so far. It's how hard you work. So if you're really talented, but you don't work hard, like you can be the most talented artist, but if you don't put in the work, you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to be successful. But if you're really hard working, you can just be like a mediocre, talented artist, and you're going to be more successful than that artist that has super talent, but just doesn't put in the work. He said, if you're really talented and you're really successful and you're really hardworking, then you're going to be really successful. That's the equation. That's the formula for success. Talent times hard work equals success. T times HW equals S. That's the formula. Write it down, people. And so that's Todd McFarlane, Image Comics, creator of Spawn. But basically my favorite artist is Mike Mozart is truly my favorite artist. And he is a pop artist. He started off working for Disney in the 1960s, the late 1960s. And he was one of the original graffiti artists that was like bombing like under bridges, like sides of walls and like other different buildings and stuff in New York City back in the 70s. And he got hired by Disney at an early age. I think it was like, he lied about his age. only like 16 or 17. He got hired by Disney to do like, lunchbox designs of like the dwarves from Snow White and stuff. And like he was doing like designs for like Little Mermaid thermoses and stuff. And like he was actually like doing characters. Like back then there was no digital art until like the 90s was really the revolution of, so back like pre 90s, everything was hand art, everything was hand painted. And so Mike Mozart got to start working for Disney back in the 70s. And basically, fast forward, he was the ghost artist for Alec Monopoly. A lot of you probably know Alec Monopoly. He does like Richie Rich paintings and stuff. And so basically, Mike Mozart is the godfather of the luxury pop art genre, where he takes metal flakes and very shiny luster type materials and infuses them into his paintings. He does large canvas paintings. He's most famous for doing Mr. Monopoly, Scrooge McDuck, and then he does a lot of other characters too. But he does a lot of pop culture characters. But he's famous for doing a lot of different types of backgrounds, like pasted on to the canvas. So he'll take like a 3x4 canvas, right? And he'll take 100-year-old Wall Street Journal newspapers and paste them onto the canvas. Then he'll paint a pop art character doing some cool kind of thing, flying on a jet or like in a sports car or something. And then he'll add metal flake into certain areas of the painting to make it super shiny. Then he'll pour clear resin on top of it to have a glass type of finish, which makes the shiny material pop even more. And so that's big. And he completely created, he pioneered that genre of artwork where it's like pop culture characters with shiny metal flakes infused into the painting with a glass resin surface over top of it. There's a lot of artists copying this exact style of painting now. Mike Mozart was the one who pioneered that back in like 2010. And so that's truly my favorite artist is Mike Mozart, because I came across his Instagram page probably like 2015, 2016 when I first started getting into artwork. And it just blew me away. Because like when I first started getting into artwork, I already told the story about how I first started getting into artwork in like 2015. I started just following all these artists on Instagram. Instagram's like one of the best, I think the best website for artwork, because it's like a visually based type of social media platform. And so I started following all these artists, and then I came across Mike Mozart's profile, and he just blew me away. And I've like been such a huge Mike Mozart fan ever since then. And I actually have even talked to Mike Mozart in person. I've called him a few times, talked to him on the phone. And because he's kind of taken me under his wing, I'm kind of one of his students, if you will. And so definitely check out Mike Mozart's page, Mike Mozart on Instagram. And so that's basically my favorite artist. And we're going to move on now to the next subcategory of discussion here on the Art Culture Podcast, episode 1, with me, your host, Austin Perry, and my co-host, Carlos Campbell. Carlos, what are your thoughts on art tablets?
Yes, we discussed about this a few weeks ago. I had the Wacom tablet, and it's basically,
you got one?
Yeah, but it's the one where it's just the black tablet, or where it's not on screen. So it's a small, like, I think it's probably like 5x7.
Okay.
So I played around with that. I had it set up to my Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop. And then it's pretty hard to calibrate it, because I could draw on it, but it's hard to translate it on screen. So I'm like, I need something with the screen. So I've been thinking about getting a Wacom tablet where it has the screen on there, the digital one. And then I started looking on Instagram and I just seen people drawing on iPads. I started thinking, I'm like, what is this? So it's I think the app is called Procreate, and it's like
Yeah.
the other ones. So I started looking at that, and then they could edit the pen to where the surface would be like pencil surface and stuff, and then they could draw like realistic or cartoony. And then they even use Adobe Flash or whatever, where they make it all cartoony and with ads and stuff. So I was like, that's one of the things I need to get ASAP or whatever. It's because before, when I used to draw on paper, I used to have to draw whatever I have on paper and then put it in a scanner or take a picture of it, then upload the scanned picture onto Photoshop or Illustrator. Then you have to do an outlining thing where sometimes it doesn't correct outline perfectly or whatever. So that's a hard process, very tedious or whatever. So now you could just draw directly onto the screen. So this is amazing. This is something I've been waiting for a long time, and this was something, it's something that'll get me started, but I have to get an iPad and then I'll be on my way. So I'm very excited about this because I always see it on Instagram. I follow Procreate on Instagram, and I always see it. So I can't wait to get started because, like I said before, drawing is easy for me. So it's no telling what I could do with that. And you could just, it's already digital, so you could translate it into like t-shirts or posters. It's already online. So it just skips the process. And how do you feel about it?
So my thoughts on art tablets is I like them. Like you were talking about, like the Wacom. So within the art community, most artists like know about this, is Wacom is considered like the premier, the ultimate art tablet for illustrators. It's basically designed and created specifically for that purpose of creating artwork, whereas other tablets, such as the competitors to the Wacom tablets, such as the Apple iPad, and then probably the third most popular competitor would be the Microsoft Surface Touch. Those tablets are designed to be multi-functionality, whereas the Wacom tablet is specifically designed just for illustrating. So, and like you were talking about, like you've got like the pad where it connects to like a monitor or a tablet or a desktop computer, and you can draw on that with your stylus. They also have the Wacom tablets where it has a screen, and it's like similar to like its iPad tablet where it's like you see the whole screen, you can like draw on it and stuff. Those are really expensive, like depending on the size, because they've got ones that are like whatever 8x10 or like 9x11 or whatever, and then they got the ones that are big, like I'm talking like 22 by like whatever 14 or whatever it is. Those are gonna, those they get up to like $5,000, or like some of them are like even like $7,000 or whatever, like super, like I'm sure like their flagship model is like 10,000 or whatever, like super expensive. So it can run you a pretty penny when you really start delving into and like researching those types of like items and those tools and those products. But I thought about possibly getting a Wacom for a while. So ever since I've been an artist, like since I started getting into artwork again since like 2015. So I'm like 6, 7 years into like getting, like being an artist now, and like every year I've gotten just progressively better and like more productive with my artwork and stuff. I have really only been doing traditional artwork like pens, pencil, paints, markers on canvases and paper, basically, is like pretty much all I've been doing. So I've only been doing traditional. I haven't really done any digital art at all. And my thoughts on tablets is, if you're good at drawing like physical art, like traditional art, you're going to be good at doing digital art, because it's basically just a tool for you um to create art with. Basically, it's just a tool that you're using. Like it's the same with like, if you're good at making cave paintings with charcoal that you got out of the fire pit, you're going to be good at with pen on paper. The pen and the paper are just tools that you're using. Like, and so like the stylus and the tablet are just tools that you're using. It's your skill level that's really dictating how good the artwork's going to become. Um, but I have thought about definitely getting a tablet, because I think it could be a way for me to be more productive with my artwork, because that's where, see me, I'm the type of guy where I go through like peaks and troughs and ups and downs of like being really productive, and then I'll like get lazy and I won't be productive at all, and I'll be focusing on other things or whatever, and like I'm like, oh, I need to like start doing my artwork a lot more. Like I need to be like daily doing at least 6 hours a day, more like 8 hours a day. Michael Phelps, right? Gold medalist in the Olympics. He trained 8 to 10 hours a day, every single day, no days off. Like if I want to be a gold medalist equivalent within the art world, it's got to be 8 hours a day. And so that's what I'm really trying to get in this mode of like being hyper productive on a daily level. And I feel like potentially buying a tablet like an iPad could help me to achieve those goals. But really, it's just a mind over matter. It's just a will type of thing. Like I really just have to like will myself to be super hyper productive. And I'm getting towards that state. And I go through periods where I am hyper productive. Like I've gone through periods where like 3 months straight, I was working on artwork every single day, and then I start to slack. But just wait, people. I'm telling you, I'm coming for you, top artists. Like, cause I see you guys on Instagram. I see, like, I follow all my favorite artists on Instagram, and they're just like daily grinding. And so, like, if they can do it, I can do it. And so, basically, and this podcast that we're doing, this is just inspiring me even more and getting me more in the mode to be in that hyper productive level of production like I want to be. And so, basically, it's coming real soon. Probably tomorrow I'm going to start working on artwork again and creating artwork. But I think I like tablets a lot because I like the idea of how, say you do a drawing of Nightcrawler from the X-Men series or whatever character you want to think of. Say you do a drawing of Cyclops on like pen and paper. So you do a drawing with this pen, this black ballpoint pen on 8.5 by 11 standard printer paper. You can scan that, or you can take a photo of that, and you can turn it into digital art. Whereas inversely, you can create an artwork within Procreate or Adobe Illustrator on your iPad, and you can print them out on your own printer, or you can send it to a company that will like make 50 prints for you and mail them to you. So just as you can digitalize physical art, you can physicalize digital art, if that makes sense, if that's even a word. So it works both ways.
The layers, so I forgot to add that too, just like how Photoshop and Illustrator have different layers. So you could draw your sketch and then you could layer it with different colors, different effects, different patterns or whatever, and textures to whatever you're doing. So you could have like 10 different variations of the same picture. It's amazing.
And you can even animate artworks in the Procreate app. And oh my God, I completely forgot to mention this. I got to add this into the podcast here before we're done with episode 1, because we were talking about art genres, and that's everything. Like genres is everything. Like I can talk about genres forever, but my favorite genre of art is cinema. Cinema is the ultimate art form. I can't believe I forgot to mention this, but cinema is truly the ultimate art form. I guess we only talking about two-dimensional genres of artwork, because that's pretty much what we were talking about.
Yeah, that was an introduction, so we just kept it simple. But yeah, episode 2 we could talk about just,
yeah, we'll save that for a whole another episode. But that's basically my thoughts on tablets. I'm thinking about getting an iPad. Carlos was actually the one who originally was like, Austin, you should buy an iPad, because I'm thinking about going. I was like, you know what, that's a good idea. And then I started researching them on eBay and on Google and on the Apple website and watching videos about them, because I'm thinking about getting a refurbished one, because you can get them for like way cheaper, and they're basically like completely taken apart and put back together by like people who know what they're doing. It's like a brand new one. You get it for like way cheaper. So that's like a good life hack for people who think about getting a tablet, just get a refurbished one. But like for like a good like few days, like I was looking at them and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna hold off for a little bit. But now I'm like thinking I need to get one again. So yeah, I might get one pretty soon. I'm thinking the iPad though, probably not a Wacom, probably not a Microsoft Touch, probably iPad's my favorite. just because I like Apple devices. I have like multiple Apple devices. I got a MacBook, I got an iPhone, so might as well get the tablet too, the iPad. So those are basically my thoughts on tablets. Those are all the subcategories covered. Sorry that I elaborated and expounded upon so much and kind of rambled on there, but this art topic is really like my favorite topic that I can super geek out about and like just talk about endlessly. And so that's why I'm like super excited, and I'll just like keep talking and talking because I really do love artwork. Like I'm super passionate about artwork. And like I said, I'm really trying to make that my career move. I'm really trying to make that like my livelihood. I'm really trying to make that my entrepreneurial venture, my business. And so I'm really like making a super effort to be a career artist, painter, illustrator. And so check out my website, austinparry.org, AUSTINPARRY.org. That's where you can find all of my artwork that I have for sale. I've got like over 40 different artworks, original artworks, paintings, and illustrations that you can buy on my website right now. Go check it out. They're all very reasonably priced. Some are framed, some are not framed. So definitely take a look at that. Check out this podcast on YouTube. It's also going to be on Facebook. Check out our other podcasts that we have. We have the American Women podcast. That's me and Carlos Campbell. We're both hosts on those shows. I also have the Austin Perry Show, which talks about politics, current events, culture, news, advanced technology, and aliens. If you like talking about conspiracy theories, definitely check out that show. But here on the Art Culture Podcast, episode 1, on this June 1st, 2022 edition, this is where we discuss and analyze, examine how life imitates art. Carlos Campbell, any closing comments?
Oh yeah, you could contact me. I'm on Instagram at Mechfrza, MECHFRZA. And I have my link to my t-shirt website, owlspirits.com. That'll be in the link in the bio. And I can't wait for episode 2. We got to talk about cinema, right?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Follow me on Instagram, Austin Perry Art, AUSTINPARRYART. And we will see you on episode 2 of the Art Culture Podcast. Love and peace.
Peace.